Ladies and gentlemen, as we commemorate the 25th anniversary of the peaceful appeal by 10,000 Falun Gong practitioners to the Chinese government for their basic right to practice their beliefs, I want to say loud and clear, I stand in total solidarity with Falun Gong practitioners. Having devoted all my adult life, over 30 years, to the defense of the fundamental human right to freedom of religion or belief, as set out in Article 18 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. I am outraged and heartbroken by the brutal, barbaric, inhumane, cruel and criminal persecution of peaceful, gentle Falun Gong practitioners who embody and live out their values of truthfulness, compassion and forbearance. And let's be clear, those values of truthfulness, compassion and forbearance or tolerance are not solely Falun Gong values, they are universal values. I personally am a Christian, and as a Christian these are values which my faith teaches me to uphold, honour and adhere to. People of all faiths and none can embrace these values. Since I first became engaged with advocacy for persecuted Falun Gong practitioners almost a decade ago, I have met and come to know dozens of practitioners. They are my friends, and in every single one of them, without exception, I have encountered only generosity, hospitality, humanity, humility, kindness, intelligence, and love. I have shared meals with them, shared platforms with them, enjoyed Shen Yun with them, and enjoyed our common humanity together. But for these beautiful virtues, so many thousands have been persecuted, jailed, tortured, discriminated against, and even killed. And of course they have suffered the barbaric crime against humanity of forced organ harvesting, which in 2019 the China Tribunal, led by Sir Geoffrey Nice, KC, for which I was privileged in a small way to help be a catalyst, concluded after extensive hearings and evidence that this atrocity is indeed happening on a widespread scale. As the China Tribunal judgment concludes, we should all be reminded, anyone dealing with the Chinese state should know that they are dealing with a criminal state. The UK government's Minister for Indo-Pacific, Anne-Marie Trevelyan MP, is in China right now. And I understand that the United States Secretary of State Antony Blinken is visiting next week. Germany's Chancellor Olaf Scholz has just been in China. I have never been one to say that we should not talk to China, so I don't necessarily oppose these visits. But for me the question is not whether we should engage or not, it is how to engage, what about, and with what objectives. So I urge Minister Anne-Marie Trevelyan, Secretary Antony Blinken, and other world leaders and government officials that when they meet with Chinese leaders, they should put human rights at the very heart of that dialogue, and they should raise the persecution of Falun Gong, forced organ harvesting, and the findings of the China Tribunal, as well as the genocide of the Uyghurs, the atrocities in Tibet, the dismantling of freedom and democracy in Hong Kong, the persecution of Christians, the crackdown on dissidents, human rights defenders, lawyers, journalists, bloggers, and civil society all across China, and the threats, increasing threats to Taiwan. We can talk to a criminal regime. Nothing is achieved by not talking, but we should think twice about whether and how to do business with a criminal regime. This year, 2024, is full of anniversaries. It's the 35th anniversary of the Tiananmen Square massacre, the 10th anniversary of the Hong Kong umbrella movement, the 5th anniversary of Hong Kong's 2019 protests, and the 25th anniversary, which we mark today, of Falun Gong's peaceful appeal. In this year of symbolic anniversaries, let all of us who care about human rights in China for the Uyghurs, for Tibetans, for Hong Kongers, for southern Mongolia and Manchuria, for dissidents, human rights defenders, lawyers, bloggers, journalists, activists, Christians, and Falun Gong practitioners. Let us stand together, unite, speak out, and say enough is enough. To Xi Jinping and his thugs in Beijing, enough of repression, lies, torture, and killing. And to the free world and the international community, enough of kowtowing, compromise, and business as usual. A regime that locks up and tortures people just because they believe in truthfulness, compassion, and forbearance is not a regime that can be a reliable business partner. A regime that forcibly harvests human organs is not a regime that can be a friend. And a regime that breaks promises under international agreements, as it has done to Hong Kong. A regime that separates children from parents by force and sends them to boarding schools where they're forbidden from practicing their religion, living their culture, or speaking their language, as it does in Tibet. A regime that tears down crosses and forces Christians to bow to images of Xi Jinping. And a regime that threatens our own freedoms here at home, in our universities through Confucius Institutes, in our parliament through cyber attacks, in our markets through fake postage stamps, as was recently reported. This is not a regime with which we can do business as usual. This is a regime that poses perhaps the biggest challenge of our time. It is a challenge which Falun Gong practitioners helped to bring to our attention 25 years ago, and it is a challenge we must confront. Let me say just one last thing before I close. Last Monday, I visited Auschwitz-Birkenau concentration camps in Poland, the concentration camps from the Holocaust, from the Nazi era. And as I walked around those concentration camps at Auschwitz and at Birkenau just a few days ago, I could feel the sheer evil of what happened there, and that will stay with me for a long time. But it made me even more determined to redouble my efforts to challenge and to confront and to call to account and to stop atrocity crimes happening in our modern day, including the crimes against humanity that are perpetrated against Falun Gong. So I repeat my solidarity as we mark this anniversary. I renew my determination to continue this struggle for the freedom and human dignity of Falun Gong practitioners and for all peoples of China and the world who believe in humanity, human dignity, human rights, and human freedom. I stand with you all, and I stand with you for truthfulness, compassion, and forbearance. Thank you.